Yes, ladies and gentlemen, at the height of its popularity, we are now finally going to tackle the show that came out a year ago on a streaming platform that is about to die. I know, finger on the pulse of the industry, folks. Yeah, you probably have some questions about why we are now doing a post-Geekout reaction for Young Justice Season 3. Hi there, motorcycle outside. We're not redoing that intro. That motorcycle can just stay in here. Yeah, so why are we now doing a post-Geekout reaction on Young Justice Season 3? Well, partly because there is nothing really out there to review, but also because of two reasons. One is because I thought this would be a good thing to do for everyone out there who isn't that interested in horror films, because starting in just a few days, it is Thorgy-ween. For anybody who is a longtime fan of this channel, Thorgy-ween is when we do a horror movie review every single day, all throughout the entire month of October. So I know if you're not that really into horror movies, and maybe you're a fan of the comic book stuff that we do here on the channel, I thought, you know what, let me give you guys this. Let me give you guys something before we get into all the Halloween stuff. But the other reason why we are now doing this is because it's kind of a little bit of a cross-promotion of something that we're doing on our other channel. For anybody out there who doesn't know, I've mentioned it a few times, but we do have another channel, Thorgy's Arcade, which is all about video game related stuff. And we have a show on there called Build the Roster, where we take a hypothetical fighting game and then we build our dream roster around it. And for the newest episode of that, we did Injustice 3, and Injustice is the DC Comics fighting game. And I needed some video clips of DC characters for that video, and I kept looking up any clips that I could find from old cartoons and old shows that I could use of these characters, and some of them weren't available for free online, so I had to go on Amazon and I was buying up episodes of these shows. But then there came one character that I needed footage of, and I looked around and nobody had any of the episodes of their old show. Amazon had season 1 of their old show. I was like, season 1 was when the show, like, wasn't all that great. Like, you need to give me, like, season 2 and season 3. Like, I know there were many other seasons. How come you don't have that up there? And then the DC streaming service, DC Universe, was like, well. Look who came crawling back. Because, yeah, man, if you're a longtime fan of this channel, I have been saying for a while, I have zero interest in that DC streaming service. And people kept asking me over and over, when are you going to talk about the DC streaming service? When are you going to talk about this show? When are you going to talk about this show? When are you going to talk about this show? And I kept telling people, I'm going to wait until there are multiple full seasons of shows that I'm interested in to start paying for, because it is a monthly service. I'm not going to pay for a monthly service until I know there are many things on there that I can watch. And people kept asking me over and over again, when are you going to watch that? Eventually I went, you know what? Never. You all ruined it. I'm not doing it now. Yeah, and I was sticking by that. I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And eventually it was announced that DC streaming service, DC Universe, was going to get canceled, or at least the show part of it was going to get canceled. And all of their shows were now going to move over to HBO Max, which I do have, and I do love HBO Max. So I was like, yeah, all right, cool. I did not need to sign up for that thing at all. I'm just going to wait it out. They're all going to come over there. I'll just wait for them to arrive on HBO Max. And then I needed these video clips, and the only person who had the episodes of this old show was DC Universe, and I went, God damn it, fine, I'll do it. So I signed up for the 7-day free trial, got the video clips I need, and I went, you know, I still got a few days left in this 7-day free trial, so I decided to sit down and watch Young Justice Season 3. So there's your explanation for why now we are watching Young Justice Season 3. Also, a card should be popping up for that Injustice 3 Build the Roster. Go and check that out. Build the Roster is actually turning into the most popular show I have on any of these channels, and it is crazy to me how much that is taking off. But okay, that's enough explained. Let's now go ahead and get into this, and first thing I should say is A, I watched this, you didn't.
No.
And B, have you ever watched Young Justice?
Yeah, a few episodes.
What do you think about it?
I liked it.
Okay, cool. We did a review for this a long time ago. And I believe I remember saying in that review that I actually did not really like the first half of season 1. Like, everybody kept saying this show is great, and I was like, I think this is just a big toy commercial is all this is. Like, every single part of that show constantly just came off to me as like, buy our toys, buy our toys. Look at how many different outfits each of the characters have. They each have their special stealth suit and their regular suit and this other variety of the suit. And they now have their winter suit. And they was like, I know exactly what you're doing in this. And they each have their own special unique motorcycles. And they have their own spaceships. I was like, dude, I totally see what you're doing. This is really lazy how you're trying to get this across. And I could not get into it. Until about halfway through the first season, they just stopped doing that. They're like, all right, let's just tell the story. I went, oh, there's actually a pretty good story in here.
It's like, all right, we sold the toys. Now let's get to the good stuff.
No, they did not sell the toys. That's why the show got canceled. But I think that they eventually just went up to DC and was like, dude, stop making us try and sell toys. Let's just sell and just do the show. All right, but if you can't sell toys, you're not going to make it. And then they didn't sell toys, so they didn't make it.
It's really sad how many good shows got canceled because they didn't sell toys.
Oh, Green Lantern, the animated series. I have said this many times. I think Green Lantern, the animated series, that show was done dirty. That show is one of the best one of the best superhero animated series I've ever seen, and they were setting up so much stuff for season 2, and then they just didn't sell toys. So yeah, screw it. Nobody wanted it.
Yeah, same thing happened with Symbiotic Titan.
Yeah, Symbiotic Titan. Man, I remember I did not watch Symbiotic Titan when it came on because I just looked at it and went, it doesn't look like it's for me. And then years later, like when it popped up on Toonami and reruns, I finally checked out and went, oh, this actually is great. Yeah, so I'll admit I was partly to blame for that one. But yeah, man, it is so upsetting to me that DC streaming service did not try and do, like, I'm glad they did Young Justice. They brought Young Justice back. There was a big outcry for Young Justice. But man, it ticks me off that there was no outcry for Green Lantern. And I keep thinking about how it's like, it's only been a couple of years since that show went out there and no one talks about it anymore. And there's going to be like 20 years in the future, there's going to be some Green Lantern fan who is going to have no idea that an animated series ever existed, let alone that it was really good. So, anyway, about season 3, I will not be going over like beat by beat detail like we normally do when we talk about shows because you haven't seen it, so it'd be really weird for me to just come in here and talk to you guys. But also, as I said, this is moving over to the HBO Max in like a few months. And I know a lot of people did not sign up for the DC streaming service. So they're probably waiting to check this thing out in there. So we're not really going to do spoiler stuff. I'm going to remain kind of vague on this, which will be really interesting because I don't know how you can be vague about 26 episodes. But I'm going to try, darn it. So in season 2 of Young Justice, it kind of blew people away because they did like a 5-year time skip with like no announcement that they were doing it. It was just a huge surprise. There's another time skip in here. I think it's 2 years. It's not as much. But that's something I have to give this show right off the bat is that it really kind of impresses me how this show is not afraid to keep moving forward. Like there is one moment in here in which it shows one of the characters who is now a parent and they are going to like superhero daycare. And they're arriving at this, and it's all the parents who now have kids. And I kept looking at it going, DC Comics is afraid to do this. Like, DC Comics will not, like, go, all right, let them get married, let them have kids, because they are afraid of, well, what happens if they get too old? What happens if they, like, grow up too much? Does that mean that we're eventually going to have to, like, when they retire them, what's going to go on with this? And it screwed up so many great storylines at DC. And I just was looking at this moment and it's like Barry Allen, the Flash, and Iris, they have their twins, which anytime that Barry Allen in the comics goes in the future, you see, yeah, he's got twins. And it's like, oh my God, there they are. They actually, like, we've actually seen them in the present. That's never happened. And so many other characters were there with their kids. And it was just like blowing me away. This idea that, holy cow, this show is actually progressing and having characters grow up. But the show doesn't just progress in terms of time. This season, the show progresses a lot in terms of tone, because that was another problem that I had with the first season of Young Justice. It's that Batman wanted to create a Black Ops team. The team that could do the things that the Justice League couldn't. The team that could do the stuff like in the shadows that they couldn't trust anyone with. And it's like, so you're going with the teenage sidekicks? What? That's a horrible idea. But then in season 2, they're all older, and it's like, okay, well, that makes a little bit more sense. So they got a little bit darker with that tone. This season, it was like the first season was like 80% superhero stuff, 20% like Black Ops, we gotta do stuff in the shadows. Second season was like 50-50. This is 80%, we gotta do things in the shadows, 20% superhero stuff. And in the very first couple episodes of this season, it's Nightwing having to go around to all these characters and gather them up and get them to join him for this one mission. And it's one of those, we only got like one last job kind of things. And he gathers them together and he tells them, we're not wearing any costumes on this, nothing like that. And it's just a bunch of characters in like totally black garbs, black mask on. And I was like, this has like zero to do with superheroes right now. This is just a Black Ops show. And it's a pretty good Black Ops show. I know that a lot of times I come on here and I complain about, I was like, God, why are you trying to turn everything dark and gritty and edgy, and why are you trying to do that with this character? This is not that. It is dark. It is a very dark season of this show, but it is not them coming in here and like just flipping the dark switch. They took several seasons kind of building up to this, and it makes sense. For, we've had 2 seasons of them being trained to be like Black Ops spies. Now when you see them just going, all right, let's just completely drop the whole superhero thing. Yeah, it makes sense, but it is kind of jarring. It is kind of jarring because I know that people are going to go into this going, more Young Justice, and then when you see like, oh no, it's just a big spy show now, it is going to cause a lot of people to be like, this is a little bit different. But it is a different that they've been leading up to. However, something I do have to say is this season, it is definitely darker, but it's far more graphic. Because they are no longer on Cartoon Network, they're now on a streaming service. And this is the thing that to me was odd. Because it's not like they just were gratuitous with how graphic they were. Whenever they got graphic with stuff like blood and guts and stuff like that, it was always in a scene where that would naturally be happening in there. Like there's a scene in here, there's one episode in here where Lobo shows up. And for anybody who knows Lobo, he's the big space bounty hunter who is definitely the rated M for mature character. He is everything wrong, but also kind of good about the 90s in comics.
The guilty pleasure.
Yes,
of the 90s.
That's exactly what he is. Lobo is that character that's like, I know it's stupid, but I like it. Fuck it. He shows up and he fights the team. And there was one moment in which he stabs someone like right through the guts, and it is not like a silhouette or anything. It is, you see that, they look down and they've got like a sword popping out of them and it's just blood spilling. I was like, what? Oh God, it's very weird. And also they introduced Cyborg this season. For anybody who knows, Cyborg, he was created because he was involved in an explosion and had half his body blown away. I saw that origin story over in the Doom Patrol show, which was the show where they could not stop saying the F word every 5 episodes. No, what am I saying? 5 times per episode. Hell, 5 times per scene sometimes, depending on how long Robot Man was in a scene. That show, they were raunchy and lewd, and they were not afraid to get in there and swear. And yet I look over at Cyborg's origin over there, and then I look at what they did with Cyborg in this one. Somehow the show that was started out on Cartoon Network was more graphic with that. There was a moment in which they pull a bit of rubble off Cyborg, and you see half his body just like skull and like empty eye socket and blood is, you see his heart like pumping there. It's like, oh my God! And it's very weird. But like I said, it's not like they're just coming in here and going, let's show everybody graphic things. It's always in a scene that would naturally call for that. But it is shocking, and I do feel like I have to warn people about that. So those, like, it's getting darker and it's more graphic, those are not complaints. It's just more of like, it's a warning that I gotta give people that is a big difference in this season. However, there is a thing that I do consider to be a negative about this season, which is that first season of Young Justice, it was the Young Justice team, and it was the Justice League. Then in the second season, it was the Justice League. There was kind of the graduate members of Young Justice, who they were now 5 years older, and now it was the new cast of Young Justice. It was all the new young superheroes out there. This season, it's Justice League, it's the original cast, it's the second string cast, then it's a whole new team that's the Outsiders, which for anybody who's a comic fan, it is kind of weird that they're the Outsiders, because the Outsiders were originally this team that Batman founded. Because he said, listen, the Justice League can't do certain things in here. There is a team that needs to do things that you guys can't. And he called together all these superheroes that were known for being loners, known for not wanting to join teams, and went, well, every now and again we are gonna need to we're the only guys that can trust each other to do this. And this season starts off with that exact thing happening. Because the Justice League has now been working for the UN for the past couple of years, and Lex Luthor is the UN representative. And they're like, we know you're evil. You're Lex Luthor. And it is crazy to me how much this season they're just like, Lex Luthor is Trump. Like, I'm not reading into that, by the way, which someone's going to come into the comments and say something's going to point out right now. Back in the 80s, DC Comics made Lex Luthor a parody of Donald Trump back in the 80s, but they kind of moved away from that. And now it is amazing to me how much this season was just like, nope, going right back to that. Lex Luthor is Trump. Like, there's a moment in which he is holding a big meeting for all these UN guys, and he's talking to the news, and he's saying, please, it is just a coincidence that we are all at one of my hotels. And I was like, Lex Luthor is not a hotel guy. So they just completely moved. Like, wow, yeah, I see what you did there. That's just like one thing that they did in there. It's just that one thing. And then no, it keeps going in there. It's like, Lex Luthor, you're still running your company while you're UN rep. You said you would stop doing that. It's like, no, well, you can't prove that I'm still doing that. And then there was a moment which they catch him red-handed doing something evil, like being part of an evil organization. What do you think he says when he gets out there to address it?
He lies.
No. What is the exact term you think he uses when he gets up in front of everyone talking about this story that just broke about him?
It wasn't me.
No, that's not Trump.
I don't know.
Fake news.
Fake news, all right.
Yeah, he gets out there and he goes, it is fake news. He says it twice. And I'm like, dude, you are not even trying to hide this right now.
Sorry, I'm not familiar with too many Trump quotes.
But that's like his catchphrase. If you hear him say fake news, it's like, oh, that means it really happened.
I don't know, it's like everything is like fake news now, so it's like it's hard to tell who's saying it or...
yeah, that's the terrible state that we live in. So, yeah, but it is just crazy to me how much they did. But yeah, so the Justice League, it starts off with Batman saying, like, the Justice League can no longer go and do what we need to do, so we need a separate team. And he quits, Green Arrow quits, and a lot of other people quit. But also, the big thing to me, and this is crazy, I'm sorry. I'll get back to that. I just realized I was making a point, and then I was like, nope, I'm going to stop and go over to this other point. No, we're going to stop doing that. So a bunch of people quit, and it's like, okay, so you guys are going to be the outsiders. But then, no, they're not the outsiders. They're Batman Inc., which is another team from the comics. So, all right, so you got the Justice League, Batman Inc., the original team, and the new team of heroes. But then, like, within the midst of that, the old team find this new group of super teens, and they kind of adopt them, which is really kind of cute. And they find, like, these kids, and they can't, like, go back to their homes. And they're like, all right, well, I guess you're going to just sleep on our couch. So now it's this older team having to, like, get used to them. And there's a great moment in there where the young team goes completely against what they told them to do, and they go off on their own mission. And Nightwing is charging in there going, how could they be so irresponsible? And Superboy's just like, you guys remember when you were teenagers and the Justice League told you not to do something and then you charged into Cadmus and you found me in there? It's like, oh yeah, we are old now. I really love that moment where the young heroes had to like face the fact that like, oh my god, we're the adults now, and now we're having these teenage superheroes do the exact thing to us that we did when we were teenagers. I love that moment. It's a great moment. So you got Justice League, Batman Inc., the original team, the new team, this new team of the new characters that they found this season.
The new team.
Yes, exactly. And then, like, Beast Boy comes back around halfway through the season, and he decides to form his own team made up of a mishmash of characters from all the different teams. And, like, there are now too many cooks in the kitchen on this. There are way too many characters involved. And listen,
it's like Smash Brothers. Everyone's here. Like.
Yeah. It is that, except imagine a story trying to be formed with all the Smash Bros. Characters. That is exactly what it is. It's like there are too many teams and they are too separate. And a lot of the times, you'll have characters who are very important to this plot just disappear for many seasons in a row. Many episodes in a row. And I'm so glad that I binge watched this whole season because if I had to watch this week by week, I would have forgotten so many major plot points in here. I can guarantee you I would have. This show was made to be binged, because when you binge it and it just feels like one 10-hour long movie, it's like, okay, it all works pretty well. I can only imagine how lost I would have been if I had watched this episode by episode, because Nightwing is a major character this season. He is gone for several episodes in a row. Beast Boy becomes a major character. He leads the titular team of the Outsiders, because the season is Young Justice Outsiders. He leads the Outsider team, which that's the point I was trying to make. It's very weird what they do with the Outsiders here, because the Outsiders, it's basically the Teen Titans. They even have Titan Tower in there, and yet they're called the Outsiders. And what's odd to me is that at the beginning of the season, Batman does the thing that in the comics he did to form the Outsiders, but they're not the Outsiders. They're Batman Inc. It was again, this is not important to anybody who is not a comic fan, but to a comic fan, I was like, why can't you just call them the Teen Titans? It's just, whatever, screw it. But they do actually involve some of the characters who were members of the Outsiders in here, and there are a lot of the new characters that they introduce. But like I said, Beast Boy, massive, major player in this. That dude is not in here until halfway through the season. Batman, there is a revelation that is made about what Batman is doing behind the scenes, but Batman is in maybe 5 out of the 26 episodes, and he just kind of pops up here and there. It's yes, I was doing this thing over there. It's do you have a spin-off show in the works? Because it feels like you have major important things happening that really should be on screen, and they're not.
Batman has become Squirrel Girl.
Yes. Well, Batman already was. Batman was absolutely the I figured out how to beat you off panel. No, we're not going to explain it at all. Batman was totally that. But yeah, it just feels don't you have should we see some of the things you say you're doing? And it's shocking me how little we see that. And I can only think it was a voice actor thing. Because listen, this show definitely has a smaller budget than the previous seasons did. And you can kind of tell when it comes to the voice cast. And the voice cast, still great. Still excellent. And I'm amazed at how many people they got to come back for this season. However, if you have an ear for voice actors, you are going to constantly find yourself going, that's the same guy, that's the same guy, that's the same guy, that's the same guy. The guy who, I cannot remember his name, but in the Teen Titans cartoon, he was the voice of Cyborg. In this show, he's the voice of Calder, Aqualad, who this season is now Aquaman. But he pops up in here in 5 other major roles, and then in 10 other minor roles. He is all over the place, and don't get me wrong, he is an amazing voice actor. He is incredibly talented. Nobody is talented enough to play that many characters and not make me go, oh dude, that's the same guy. That's there are moments where he is having screaming conversations with himself, and I'm dude, come on. You couldn't get anybody else in there, because this season he is Calder. He's Aqualad returned, now Aquaman, as I said. Black Lightning, who this is one of the weirdest parts of this whole season to me. Black Lightning, who, if you are a comic fan and you think of the Outsiders, Black Lightning is the face of the Outsiders, so it was important that he comes in the season that's focusing on the Outsiders. But he comes in this season, and I think in season 1 he wasn't there at all. Season 2, I think he was there for maybe 2 episodes. Season 3, he is almost the protagonist. The season starts off with, for anybody who was following in the previous seasons, the villain group, The Light, they were now finding teenagers with the metagene, with, potential superpowers, forcing their superpowers to come out, and then selling them as weapons across the galaxy to Darkseid. And this season starts off with him on the Justice League fighting against some of these monsters in space, and then he ends up fighting one, and it ends up dying, and he freaks out because no, I couldn't have done that. No, I did not hit hard enough for it to die. And then they do a renod. It's it's not your fault that it died. This thing, it was just a kid. It should not have had this much power flowing into it. And then he realizes he essentially forced this kid to die by fighting it. And so he has a big crisis of faith this entire season. So he's the character this entire season that you're seeing him trying to figure out, does he want to become a hero again? Does he want to get back into the game? And all this stuff is good, but again, it's kind of yeah, but you were not in any of the previous seasons. So it's now weird that in season 3, this character who was pre-existing is now like the major character. So again, that's how like the balance thing kind of is a little bit of a problem, like balancing between all these different characters in there. But as I was mentioning, yeah, the guy who plays Aqualad, he's also Black Lightning. Cyborg gets introduced this season, and he's not Cyborg, but he is Cyborg's dad, which is actually great. That's actually kind of like great that the original voice actor for Cyborg is now the dad for Cyborg. And the new voice actor they got for Cyborg, fantastic. I think he's amazing in here. But yeah, he's also like this recurring villain on this season. I can't even go over all the different characters that he is in here. There is one really weird moment in here, though, where Beast Boy is basically having like a fever dream. And in his fever dream, he's hopping between different TV shows. And he hops into a Teen Titans Go cartoon. But it's not Teen Titans Go, because the Teen Titans don't exist in this universe. Every episode, every show that he goes through is essentially part of his past that he's reliving. And he goes into Doom Patrol Go. For anybody who knows the comics, you know Beast Boy was, before he was a Teen Titans, he was a member of the Doom Patrol. So it's Doom Patrol Go, and they have all the Doom Patrol members in there, but they're all voiced by the voice actors from Teen Titans Go.
Like, were they animated as
yes, they
same
were.
style?
Same style. Same style. And you want to know like how weird and freaky this season is. The episode, it is like that little bit where he is now in the Doom Patrol Go thing. They've got the D-O-O-O-M, D-O-O-M, Doom Patrol, like that like cartoon thing going on.
Yeah.
It's all of them in the same style. But then it's like, all right, time for us to go out there and die. And Doom and Beast Boy's like, no, don't go on this mission. Don't go on this mission. We have to. We're called the Doom Patrol. We have to go and die. Let's go. D-I-E, D-I-E. Like they're literally chanting die. And I was like, and while Beast Boy, in his little cartoon Beast Boy Teen Titans Go form, is just crying. Like, don't go. I was like, this is messed up. This is too weird. Yeah, it is. Like I said, this season gets dark in weird ways. But he's in there, and he's the voice actor for Robot Man. And I was like, it is, god damn, man. Like, that would be a great callback, but you've already been 9 other characters this season. In fact, there is a moment in which he is even playing for anybody who knows, Cyborg, he was a football star, and the catchphrase they ended up getting on the Teen Titans cartoon was "Booyah." There was a moment in which you see Cyborg before he becomes a cyborg, and he's in the locker at his football game, and there's another big dude in there, and he is like just being big and loud, and he is shouting out "Booyah!" It's him. And I was like, dude, come on, man, I get it. You were the original voice actor for Cyborg. There had to be other voice actors you could get for this season. Yeah, it is amazing to me how many voices he did this season. But, as I said, that is kind of one of the problems, is that they just, like, had to recycle so many people over and over and over again. I know I've been all over the place with this. But yeah, this season, it is good. It is definitely good. I'm glad that the show came back. I was a huge fan of it after season 2, and I thought it was a shame that it got canceled. And I think it's great, a lot of stuff they did in here. There is still a lot of like tongue-in-cheek weird references in here. Like there was one episode where they go to this town in Maine to save them, and there are these teenagers following them around, like recording everything that they do, and it's totally just the mystery gang
from Scooby?
Yeah, it's totally Scooby-Doo, except there's no Shaggy and there's no Scooby. But there's definitely one who says, like, Jinky's and is looking for glasses. There's a redhead one. There's a blonde one. And if you watch Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, you know Patrick Warburton did the voice of the sheriff in that town. There's a sheriff in this town who is 100% the exact design for that sheriff. And it's not... What's his face? It's not Patrick Warburton returning for this. It is, I cannot remember his name. He's Winston in Overwatch. He was Alucard in Hellsing. Yeah, that guy. Yeah. Oh, man, I cannot remember his name. But yeah, famous voice actor. For anybody who knows him, he in this in Young Justice, he is also the voice of Roy Harper, which in season 2 they got weird with Roy Harper, where it was revealed that Roy Harper was actually a clone of the original Roy Harper who had been in cryogenic stasis, and there was another Roy Harper clone who had been calling himself Guardian, and he was an older clone than the other ones. This season they do something great with that, where all of them over the course of the 2-year time skip that they did, they all came together and they all kind of became friends and a family, and now they run a security security business. And it is kind of great seeing the three of them now being like this dysfunctional family. And it's the same voice actor just having to do the same, just having to like argue with himself. But it's not like I mentioned the other actor a moment ago who had to argue with himself. It's like, yeah, you're supposed to be different guys. This is all supposed to be the exact same guy. All just basically at 3 different stages of his life, just arguing with themselves. Like, that was actually really good. I actually really enjoyed that. But he's in here doing a Patrick Warburton impersonation for that guy. I gotta admit, he does a pretty good Patrick Warburton. I actually thought it was Patrick Warburton until like halfway through the episode. So yeah, there is, once again, just like you expect with Young Justice, there's weird little bits like that in there. But I haven't even talked about the new, like, main characters. Because that's the thing, every single season has new main characters. Which is what makes me concerned about season 4. Because if you keep doing this, like I said, this was the season where it became too much. We now have too many characters. If you add a new group of main characters next season, like, oh, dude, no, we're gonna be lost in there. Like, I remember at the end of the last season, they introduced Static, and I was like, great, I love Static. Can't wait to see what he does in here. That dude's in maybe 3 episodes, and I think in one of them he doesn't talk. And I was like, oh, come on. Yeah, and like I remember last season, like Blue Beetle and Impulse were big deals, and I was enjoying seeing those 2 characters bounce off each other. Again, they're gone for huge portions of this season, and then they don't even come back until like the final couple episodes. It's like, man, we're missing out on so much good stuff here. But the new characters that they do add, even though I do look at them as like, yeah, man, the reason why we can't stick with them is because now we have to introduce you guys. They're good. I do like them. And what's really impressive is that I like all the other characters in this show, but in the comics, I like Blue Beetle, I like Impulse, I like Static, I like those characters. This season, the new characters they introduce are Geoforce, Harvester, and Halo. I don't give a crap about any of those characters in the comics. I do not care about any of them in the comics. I remember even when I was a kid, and I read some Teen Titans I read some Teen Titans comics, and they had Geoforce in there. But even back at a time in which I was like, yay, comics, I would like anything in comics. I was like, I don't care about Geoforce. Who is this guy? They're great. They are amazing in this. The relationship between them, watching them all come together and develop. Because, like, Halo is this girl. She has, like, no memories of her past, so she's trying to figure out where she belongs. But Geoforce was the prince of this nation, but when it was found out they had superpowers, he got kicked out, so he's this brash, impulsive guy. Watching him grow and mature this season, and then watching the relationship that develops between him and Halo, that was great. Harvester is a great, fun character, although I will say, one of the problems I had with the previous seasons was I hated the wordplay jokes. The writers of the show love their wordplay jokes. I think the wordplay jokes are basically like one level above puns. I hate them. I think those writing gags are terrible. Harvester is a great character, but oh my god, he is an alien. So his whole running gag of oversaying things just makes me go, you gotta be, stop. There is a moment in which he has to go undercover as a human, and they say, your name will be Fred Bug with 2 G's. Hello, Fred Bug with 2 G's. My name is Fred Bug with 2 G's. And he keeps saying it over and over again. And there is one moment in which he says that over and over and over again within the span of 1 minute. And I was like, I'm almost about to shut this thing off. I hate the wordplay jokes in this series. Not just this season. I've always hated that. And oh, they are still here. But yeah, I do still think that this was, despite the fact that I think that now the show is too big, I think that they need to cut back, focus on a few more of the characters in here. I do think that this series was still good. It does have a much darker tone, but the darker tone absolutely works. I think that the story sometimes gets a little bit too weird, like the Beast Boy episode, but it is still going in good directions. I will say, though, I'm still kind of a little bit sick of something that they've been doing throughout the entire course of the series, which is that no matter what the heroes do, it will always cut to the villains going, ah, yes, all according to plan. We knew that would happen. And one of the things this season is that the heroes are like, now we're finally going to be running things. Now we're going to be the ones who are pulling ones off on the villain group, and we're going to be the ones who are blindsiding them. And then it still cuts to the villains like, yes, we knew that would happen. Like, oh my god, you have to eventually let the heroes win on this. Yeah, it was
like they're in denial. It's like, I knew that was going to happen.
It almost feels like that. It feels like, oh my god, come on. It is ridiculous at times. In fact, there's one thing here. Okay, I'm not going to say what it is because I won't go into details. But there's a moment in the last episode where it's like the wrap-up episode. A character ends up betraying another character, and I was like, oh, that's going to cause some big stuff. The explanation for that is, yes, I just got back from talking to them, and everything is resolved. It's like, really? Everything? Okay. So, all right, nothing's going to come from that. All right, and literally it is just the villains going like, the villains can't lose on this show. We have to have them not until the very end. But yeah, show is still good. Show is still good. It's just now getting to that point where I am getting some nitpicks in there, or the nitpicks I have had in previous seasons are getting to that point where it's like, okay, dude, come on. But yeah, still great. Love the new characters in here. Wish we got more of the old characters in there. There are some pretty good, like, one-off side episodes in here. But overall, I do think that the continuous overall story, pretty damn good. Which I think that's the reason why I'm having sort of that problem with, like, them just focusing on too many characters, is that there is an overall story, and there are characters who are important to the overall story. But then this show also kind of feels like it wants to be Justice League Unlimited at times, where it's like, and this episode's gonna spotlight this, and I was like, okay, but now you're adding new things to the overall story in here, and it's kind of, which Justice League Unlimited had an overall story, but it was far smaller, like, just like, this little thing. Then a couple episodes later, this little thing. A couple episodes later, this little thing. And then at the very end, all came together. It's like, all right, cool. And that way you still have the one-off episodes. That's pretty nice in there. This is almost like the opposite of that, where it's like, big overall story. But then random little bits in here involving these characters. And it's like, but now I'm like, what's going on with the random little characters in there? Like, there's an episode here that focuses on, which again, just speaking of the voice actors in here, Tim Drake, Robin, is in this show. But he's in like 3 episodes. He only speaks in one of them, but in one of the episodes he doesn't speak, he breaks up with his girlfriend. And in one of the other episodes he doesn't speak is the episode after all these people find out what Batman's been doing, and they're going up to each of them going like, how could you do this? What have you been up to? Why have you been doing these things? And they're like having a screaming argument at one point with Tim Drake, and he's just there. It's like, again, guys, maybe cut back on some of the characters and spend the money you spend on those characters on the voice actors for these other characters that you know you will need to have lines at one point in the show. But yeah, like there's an episode in there that focuses on like just a random mission from Tim Drake, spoiler, Arrowette, and Orphan, Cassandra Cain, which by the way, still hate that name for her. I don't know why they can't just call her Black Bat. But yeah, it's basically one Green Arrow protege and 3 Batman proteges going on this mission in which they're tracking down Clayface. And I was like, this has very little to do with the rest of the entire season. It does have some stuff to do. It does tie in a little bit. But it has very little to do overall with it. And we're dedicating an entire episode to it. And now, so in other words, now you've got these characters, and I liked it. It was good. It was definitely good. But now I'm sitting here going, when are we going to get back to those guys? Because they were pretty good. And no, they're just gone. All right, they're just gone, I guess. Because now we're back to the main storyline over here. Like, nope, now we're going to focus on this guy. Yeah, so it definitely now starts to have a balance problem, I feel. Hey, buddy. Mark. But yeah, still pretty good. And when it comes out on HBO Max, definitely worth checking out. And I'm glad that they are indeed going to get a 4th season because man, it is bold that this show got canceled, was in limbo for years, came back on a streaming service that listen, DC fans, we have to accept the fact this was a crazy idea, the DC streaming service. It's cool that they did it. It's cool that DC fans basically had DC go, what if we just gave you like a bunch of like high budget shows dedicated to obscure stuff? That is a crazy idea. It's a great idea for DC fans, but it's a crazy idea that happened. We have to admit it was a crazy idea. So we knew it probably was not going to last. It was not going to succeed. And it is insane to me that they still were like, and we're still going to end it on cliffhangers. Oh my God, you guys really just feel like you're bulletproof, don't you? So yeah, there will be more. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Young Justice Season 3. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope that this made up for the fact that we were kind of light on content this month because I am preparing for Thorgy-ween. A lot of work has to go into prepping for that. But yes, come back in a few days for when Thorgy-ween actually begins. That's all I gotta say. Bye, everybody.
Bye.